What's going on, everybody? This is Future Automation, a place where imagination meets reality, and you are listening to Tejas. So, today we are having two awesome guests, and one is Aditya and one is Himantika. And I'm really excited because this was one of the podcasts that I have been looking from a very long, long time. So, welcome, Aditya, and welcome, Himantika. It's really great to have you both.
Hi,
Thanks a lot.
everybody.
Hey everyone,
Okay.
hope you're all doing well.
So we'll do one thing before getting into a lot of question and answers. Let's you can give a brief intro about yourselves, and then we'll get into all the discussion. Yeah, let's start with Hemantika. Yeah, go ahead, Hemantika.
Sure. Hi, everybody, and thanks, Tejas, for the invite. I know we have been planning this for a while now. It's finally happening. So yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be talking about low and no code. Oops, did I just spill the beans? But yeah, that's what we'll be talking
It's
about.
okay.
And yeah, and a bit about me. So, hi, I'm Himantika Mitra, and I'm a developer advocate at Appwrite. I have been here for close to 2 years, but I have been working with communities in general for almost 4 years now. And before working at Appwrite, I used to work in Microsoft in the Outlook and Exchange team as a support engineer, but I realized that my passion and what when used to get asked by HRs that where do I see myself in 5 years, this is where I see myself. So yeah, now here I am as a developer advocate working with open source, with communities, with students, with enterprises. So in and in all definitions of devil, that's what I am doing, and that's what I am. So yeah, that's all about me. I'm very glad to be here and sharing the stage with Aditya and you, Tejas.
Thank you, Hemantika. It's really great to have you. And yeah, Aditya, over to you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, hope you're all keeping well. It's great to be here chatting with you all today. I am Aditya Obrai. I currently work at the developer relations team at Appwrite as well, along with Amantika. I've been here for over 2 years now, um, and I've had the opportunity to support a number of our community initiatives like our hackathons, the Appwrite Heroes program, some of our technical content, Hacktoberfest, and so on. While of course I've been here for a little over 2 years, I have been around tech communities and hackathons for the last 5 years or so now. So I have spent a substantial part of both my academic journey, as well as my professional career around communities. And I am really looking forward to talking more about how uh, tools like Appwrite and a lot of other tools, such as different low code, no code tools, can enable people who may or may not be programmers in helping build their applications and supporting their businesses.
Great. Yeah, I think I would like to really say again thank you because I think so from the day we had a talk regarding this in the event, I was really excited, and I was really scratching out what questions I can have, or what we can discuss over, because having two of the awesome guests on a podcast and discussing on any topic is really fun, because everyone has their own perspective and own opinions. So it is really a huge amount of knowledge that we get and we can share. So again, welcome to my channel. So let's get started. So the very basic question, as always, which comes whenever we are discussing on any topic: what exactly is low code, no code platforms? One, and how do they differ from the traditional software development practices? So we can
Oh,
start maybe with Hemantika, and then we'll go with Aditya. It's fine. Yeah. Okay.
definitely. So, this is a question that is very close to my beginning of tech career as well. Like before even joining Apprite, I used to be very active in the Microsoft Power Platform community and building a lot of different applications with Microsoft Power Platform, which includes Power Apps. Then there is Power BI. Then there is Power Automate. So the stream of different applications or products that Microsoft has. So, by definition, if I have to go about what low code is and how it differs from the traditional coding way of developing applications, so it's basically something or a bridge that helps you create applications faster by writing lesser code, which means that a lot of the heavy lifting of the code part is done by the, like, the applications or the product is built. For example, Microsoft Power Platform is built in such a way that it does most of the heavy lifting for you. For example, like, since I used to work with Power Apps, let's say I'm building an app, and like, the main thing that we build, or one very common thing that we have in applications, is the authentication, right? So, like, we are keep building a button, or we are adding a logic for it, and Power Platform already had the button. Like, I could just drag and drop and write the logic behind it in its own language, like the language that we have in Microsoft's Power Excel. So the same language was used in Power Apps as well, and then we could just build apps with it much faster than traditional coding way. And similarly, if I have to draw a similarity with Appwrite, so what Appwrite does, it helps you build the backend of applications fast. So I'll take the same example as authentication. So authentication is something that we need to build in almost every application, and it's like a repetitive task that we need to do on and on, for our most projects or applications that we are building. So what Appwrite does, it helps you with SDKs and APIs that will help you build this very easily by writing less amount of code. So yeah, basically, to sum all of it, I would say that low code is that part of technology that is making the life of developers easier by helping them slower the or faster the process, or reduce the time that is needed to code repetitive tasks or repetitive processes. And um, and how does it differ from traditional way? It just saves your time, I believe, and helps, it improves your productivity. Like, if I had to build an application, maybe I would build the authentication in a day and the other parts in a day. But now, since there are low code available, so I can just use it, put everything in one place and build it in a few hours, and then go on to the next features. So yeah, that's what I have to add. Over to you,
Great.
Aditya.
Yeah,
I
Aditya.
don't know what else I can add to that, in fairness. That was the rather descriptive explanation. So I think I would have shared a lot more on the same.
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, I think that was really huge amount of descriptive information that Hematika has given, and I think not only developers but the non-technical guys who are also interested, but due to the lack of knowledge, or maybe due to the world changing too fast, they are not able to cope up. No code platforms, or maybe low code platforms, play a huge role in their life as well, making it a bit easier. Because for smaller applications, it might not be a possibility that they might learn new thing and then go on building it, but rather they can use such platforms and make it. So yeah, it's really good that such platforms are coming up, and they are making life of people very much easier. So, like, moving on. So, Aditya, for you, so can you share some real world examples of successful applications which are built using such kind of platforms?
I think when we talk about the successful application of no code, low code platforms, I think the one example that I know for a fact Hemantika is going to be thinking about this one as well is Sumit Saini's application for Heathrow Airport, where he
Okay.
was actually a member of their management and security staff, if I'm not wrong. Not someone with
Yep.
a technical background by any means. And he worked on a solution with Power Apps, with Power Platform, which was basically a multi language. I believe it had to do with security forms and so on, but this kind of usage is basically being used across Heathrow, and it cut out,
Mhm.
I believe, more than 700,000 security pamphlets being printed a year. That's what it helped them save.
Okay.
A substantial amount of productivity, a lot of time saved, a lot of cost saved, and yeah, it helped the environment well because less trees being cut to print more paper. So that example actually it really did well, and I remember a while back, a few years back, Satya Nadella he'd done a little feature on some standard applications, and Summit was featured there as well. Um, which is eventually how I discovered him, and we got in touch as well a while back. But that's one standout application that I always remember.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And what about you, Hemantika? Do you like to add something in that?
Oh, yes. I think since Aditya mentioned about the Power Platform application, so I'll give you a very recent application that we shared that was built with Appwrite, and it's called Smart Bee. So, like, basically, I'm sure that Aditya can add more about it. I'll also add the link here to the blog so that you can read. But basically, it's an application that is being used in coal mines in Colombia. So like everything in coal mines, like mining and all the activities, they basically
Effectively, gas.
yep,
It's used to monitor gas levels and create reports and so on.
Okay.
exactly. So um I think it's effectively an IoT device, like, and they are using
It's a
Appwrite
very
for
interesting solution.
yeah.
So what they've done is they've got sensors in each mine to monitor gas levels because it's mandatory in Colombia by their
Yes.
Ministry of Mining and I'm forgetting the
Mhm.
exact name, but uh, in the blog I have linked the exact legal document that made this mandatory as well. It is mandatory to monitor levels of carbon monoxide, methane, oxygen, and so on within coal mines for security purposes. So
Mhm.
their solution, it has IoT sensors in each mine, where each mine you have all of these gases monitored. Then each of these IoT devices is linked to a local Appwrite server, an Appwrite based server which is self-hosted next to the mines, which is then further connected to a remote server, and they're doing auto generation of reports, automatic um, synchronization between the remote and the local servers, and they're running this on 7 coal mines at the moment. And
Nice.
so effectively, they're processing 35 million documents a month in the database, 4 million serverless functions executed, and about 500 GB of bandwidth usage a month, if I'm not wrong. Actually, I'll have to double check that number. But yeah, they're doing 500 GB of bandwidth transmission between the IoT sensors to the coal mines to the remote servers, which is actually a massive amount of data considering this is IoT data is always very small in size, and beyond that,
Correct.
otherwise they're only generating and sharing CSV reports.
Yes, yes, I agree. Yeah, I think do share the link, and for the audience, I'll add it in the
Yeah,
description because I myself would like to read it because I'm one of the IoT enthusiasts, very badly passionate about IoT. So when you said IoT, my smile was like this. Okay, so moving on. One thing I want to ask is like adaptation of no code, low code at a business level as well as at individual level depends huge on what it is providing to the user as an individual or to an organization as a as a business amount saving or a money saving financial maybe financial benefit or maybe time saving as Himantika mentioned. So like would you like to add other than means saving of time and not needed to learn about new tech extensively, what all things do you think these kind of platforms offer to businesses as well as individuals, which make them to adapt these kind of technologies?
so when we look at a lot of no code and low code platforms,
Hmm.
fundamentally understanding how they work. At the end of the day, what it when you look at a platform, this sort of doesn't mean that there is no code involved. It just means the person using the platform doesn't have to write any code, or they have to write little code, considering whether
A
it's a
little
no
bit.
code or a low code platform. So the way this
Hmm.
works is they create abstractions over each component of code that is developed, and these abstractions can be embedded and consumed in a simpler manner. So the interface lets you embed and use these components within the environment that the platform offers, and that can be then used to then generate a full application built with just these components. Now, a lot of these tools, whether that is something like a Power Platform or an AppSmith or a Bubble, are all created for specific purposes, most commonly business productivity. right? Which is also where we see tools like Power BI and so on come into play. So and Power Automate, for example. And then you can then continue expanding from there on, where we've got workflow tools like Na10, or I would even consider Zapier in that league of tools, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So there is a productivity benefit to these, because you're getting a pre-built set of components that you can consume. You don't have to build any of them. So aside from your application, it's also the logic to run these applications that you get supported with. B, each of them have communities around them, support is available. So tomorrow, if you need help, because some of these tools are becoming more and more standardized, there are other
Yeah.
people working with them. It's easier to get support and help in case of issues or when you're covering a knowledge gap. C, because some of these tools invest a lot of time on their interfaces, on how someone can use them. Retraining someone without a lot of knowledge can at times be easier, because the benefit of visual tools
Absolutely.
is that it allows more direct feedback from the platform in terms of what you're doing versus what not, which makes it easier for more and more people. It becomes more accessible for people without pre-existing knowledge of programming. At that point, as long as they are able to logically understand how their application should work, it's a matter of developing the right interface by these platforms. And so retraining becomes easier. And then, of course, if your existing staff is able to work with these, you a company doesn't always have to hire more and more people to create these, which does have a major financial benefit for any company. Because aside from cost of platform, each person a company hires will always mean that a company needs to put up larger financial investment, right? And for a lot of smaller companies, even big ones at that point, may not always have the resources to invest in more and more hiring, right? Um, Sometimes it is easier to invest in retraining and working with people on their teams and in helping them develop these skills. And so platforms of this sort, no code and low code platforms, do decrease that barrier of education, so more people can be retrained as well. And of course, if you've got people understanding, because these are all pre-built, time is always going to be a benefit. The challenge then comes is when you need to go beyond something that these platforms offer. So that always has to be kept in mind. The one factor
Hmm.
we're considering when we say all of this is that it has already been evaluated that a platform can cater everything that the application needs. Because
Correct.
some standardized cases, like for example, a lot of BI cases, report generation, and so on, a lot of platforms you will have these facilities. These are standardized necessities. But the moment you need to have something a little more tailored, that's where these platforms will stop serving your purpose, because they're meant to be tools that offer a standardized set of components rather than every single niche thing. Now, some platforms will allow you to make these customizations. Low code platforms will do this a lot more easily than no code ones, because low code platforms
Hmm.
are meant to be extended. They're meant for flexibility a lot more. But for that, again, of course, you will need someone who can extend those as well. So it's always necessary to keep this parameter that the platform will serve that purpose. The moment you start going beyond what a platform can serve, at that point you might as well put a full barrier as to what you can do.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, yeah, Mantika. Would you like to add anything in that?
I think Aditya has wonderfully covered most of the points.
Yes.
But this is one thing that I read in a report. So you'll see that there has been a rise in low code or no code platforms. And the reason why that happened is because the demand and the supply. So the demand for applications or I would say that since we are adapting tech at a much higher pace or a much faster pace, so there is a huge demand of applications to be built, but the number of developers to that ratio is very, very small. And though it might seem exactly the reverse when we are in India, but the truth is far away from it. Like the actual ratio
Correct.
is very high to the demand and the supply, which is
Hmm.
why these platforms are getting a lot of importance, because they already have a set of things, like I was mentioning, that you can already build almost ready to use applications with it. And if it has very high or many different edge cases, maybe that is when it will require some other expertise to come into that area. But other than that, most of the applications can be very well be built using low code or no code platforms, and which is a major reason why it is being used and also being so widely adopted. And I also see, since while I was learning how to build with Microsoft platform, most of the opportunities that I received were from service based companies, and also from big four companies like KPMG, Nestle, and all of those, which means that these people, they have clients that need a lot of
Yeah.
applications to be built. And like they do not have the time, or they don't have enough resources or enough developers to actually build that on time, which is why they are adopting this platform. So yeah, that's one point that
And
I
I mean,
wanted to
even
add.
right now, if you look at platforms like OutSystems, some of their biggest customers
Hmm.
in India include organizations like Infosys and maybe an Accenture or so on. Organizations of this sort um,
Exactly.
would fit the purposes and would be able to leverage no code platforms quite well.
Yeah, I think both of you have, added a very two of the very important points that I feel are kind of key takeaways from this answer. One is that what Aditya has mentioned. So if even if a company is creating some same kind of platform, one thing they need to keep in mind that if the requirement of a user exceeds what they are providing, then they should have a flexibility of going back in the code and adding your own. Say for example, if I want to add an extra library or extra package or extra functionality, then that is something that should be a functionality or flexibility added. And one more thing what Hemantika has added is about the adaptability of such platforms. And she rightly added that in India the view is a bit different. But if we are looking at the world from a eagle's point of view, then I think the adaptation has been increased a lot. And I read somewhere, I don't remember it exactly, but by the end of 2024, it looks like around 60% of the companies, or 70 even we can say, are some or the other way using such kind of platforms to cater some of the other requirements that they have, like what we are having with the pipelines and with the with the CI/CD pipelines, maybe the management or the resource management, anything. These kind of things are already been taken over by the no code, low code. So it's getting reduced. The amount of physical coding or physical writing of code has been reducing from a long time. That is something that I think people can take
I
from
will
this
say that's
question.
arguable. I do want to interject there. I'm not going to say it's on a cut.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
just we're seeing purposes that can be fulfilled. So we're cutting out
Correct. Mm.
redundant work more than
Mhm.
anything, right?
Mm. Correct.
It may not be entirely correct to say that writing of code is going down, because just saying even these
Mm.
platforms, as I said
Mm.
earlier, it's basically code under there. Someone's got to write it anyway. That's
Correct.
not
Correct.
going away. But
Correct.
it's necessary to understand that there are places where writing code may require you to spend more time than necessary. People don't have to solve problems that have been already solved, right? Unless, of course, this serves a purpose. Otherwise, I mean, at that point, we basically never have any product competing with each other as well. You wouldn't see an
Correct.
Airtel Wink or a JioSavan versus a Spotify today, but they all solve a certain
Agree.
purpose. Right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
they've both got their space. It's just good to understand where no code, low code fits and where it doesn't.
Correct. The use case of what exactly we are doing.
Exactly.
I think there
What it can
the
cater
clarity
and
of
what
thought
it
should be
can't.
there.
Absolutely.
Correct. Okay, great, great. Yeah, thank you for adding in that part. So, next question that comes up is like, what are some of the common use cases? As I said, that use case is something that we need to have a clarity of thought on. And what are some of the common use cases that you have found out, or maybe you have come across, where no code, low code excels a bit more than what we are doing with the traditional method?
Business intelligence for sure. A lot of the stuff you would be doing with tools like Tableau, for example, are also achievable by tools like Power BI and so on. Report management, um, spreadsheet management, understanding of data that way. A lot of data management can be achieved by a number of low code, no code tools today. And Power BI is probably the hallmark of that front. They've done an exceptionally well job in the business intelligence space. Internal tools is another place where usage of no code, low code platforms is growing, especially with platforms like AppSmith in the market now. So that's another front.
Okay.
Hemantika, any other spaces you would add?
I think, and also in automation,
Yeah,
Aditya, I'm sure that you used to use a lot of Power Automate. So
I
anything
played
like
around a good bit with that. Yeah.
anything in general, like especially I see, for example, that if I'll be going out somewhere, or I need to send emails to attendees who are coming from foreign to my attending my event or something like that, so I'll just automate the task instead of doing it myself. And previously I might have written a script to do that, but now since I can just do it with some clicks, I would rather prefer that than writing it myself. So yeah, I have seen a lot of growth in the automation part as well, where you can easily integrate different applications and automate a lot of things, emails, SMS. And these are just few examples. I also used to play a lot with Twitter API, but I'm not sure if that still works because of the new restrictions. But in a lot of these different applications, you can actually automate a great deal. So automation is definitely one of them.
Great. Yeah, I think I have also worked a lot during my, like, different videos I have created in automation. But as you said, at that time we used to have a lot of scripts, and now it's just drag and drop for a lot of things, where we can, link different things and make the work of an automation flow. So yeah, I think great. Next to that, what I wanted to ask is about, since we are talking about slowly going into no code, low code, any limitations that you find for these kind of platforms? Let's go with Himantika. Yeah, yeah, Himantika.
I think the limitation that can be seen is, especially like we were talking about edge cases. Most of these low code platforms are now being developed in such a way that it can be customized or extended to it can be extended to all good extents. But then there are certain very high edge cases. For example, if something as complex as billing comes up, for example, and there are numerous edge cases that needs to be handled, maybe in such cases you need to write more lines of code than entirely relying on low code. But I haven't really worked on anything that required so many edge cases, so I'm not the best person to add my points on it. But maybe Aditya can share his experience with that.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I was telling earlier. Whenever you need something particularly bespoke, a lot of no code platforms are not going to be able to cater to you because they're meant for standardized experiences, right? Like, for example, we talk about intelligent solutions, getting reports, processing reports, getting data, getting charts out of them. That's one thing. Now, if I want to build a chat GPT, I'm probably not going to be able to do that with any no code platform in the world today, right? It's always necessary to understand what a no code platform will let you do. Now, even on that front, when we talk about extensibility, a lot of low code platforms will allow more flexibility on that. No code platforms tend to be a lot lesser flexible because the idea is that you don't have to add any code. So some will allow you to add some stuff, like an example of that is Wix.com. They let you basically use a drag and drop builder to websites, but they now have a tool called Velo, which lets you add your own scripts and write your own code as well. And so it's necessary to understand what tools you can use, what tools you can't, what each tool does, because we always choose the tools we want to build with based on the application. We don't decide what we want to build with before we've planned out our application. Anyone who's
Right.
doing that, you're going to set yourself for blockers 10 steps down the road when you're actually in the process of building. So it's always necessary to step back and think whether you can use these platforms first. Because if your application is okay with it, then it doesn't matter, right? Then those tools help. But if you've not planned that out, you're always gonna see yourself get stuck in a problem a little way down the road.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I think one of the a website I'm not sure if you both have seen it. Have you checked out framer.ai by any
Yeah.
chance? It's really amazing what they have also done. Just creating a website from a prompt. So I think
Mhm.
for starters, if you want to create a blog like website, it's kind of awesome
Like
what
I'll
they
give you
have done.
examples there, right? Like Framer's a great example. I remember Vercel came up with their own tool as well, V0,
Mm,
which let you generate a full website template, right? Now, here's the challenge, for example. When you're working with these and you generate a website and you see it interactive and so on, it's all great. Maybe once you start putting it out there and you start testing it, you might find that it isn't accessible enough, which was earlier problem with with V0. Which, in fairness, is okay. This was the first time it was at an MVP stage when they brought it out, so people caught this issue. They're probably going to work on it and so on, but it might have accessibility challenges. It might have challenges with responsiveness. The moment you need to extend it, the CSS might fail. So these tools are great when you need to get something up and running, but the moment the scope of your problem changes, you might see them crash then and there, because for minute changes, I don't know how much Framer will be able to help you. I haven't used it as much,
right.
very little, but the moment you start tailoring there, right, you're going to need to understand what's running underneath your application as well. That's the
Correct.
only way
Correct.
to go.
At that moment only, I left using it. So, so I started using it to create a small blog-like website, and then I thought, okay, we need something more, and it was kind of very complicated then to go inside to understand where we need to do what. And at that point, I closed the tab and I said, okay, I'll do it the way we usually do it. Okay,
I mean, the thing is
so
that it can give you a starting point. It can help you
yeah,
serve an MVP, and then you can build from there. As if you know what's going on underneath, it's perfect because it does a lot of the boilerplate work you'd have to do anyway, and then
correct,
you can continue adding what you want on your own. That is very much
right,
possible. That is something that a lot of low-code tools particularly help with a lot. But
correct, right,
you're going to have to be in a position where you can understand that. The challenge comes when that isn't evaluated beforehand.
correct. So we need to, as you are suggesting, we need to evaluate that part as well in the beginning only. That if
Yeah.
our scope goes a little bit south, we should know what is going in the background, and so that we can
Absolutely.
tweak it. Okay. So, since you both are working in, this low code, no code platform from a long time, like you are also an enthusiast even before getting into Appwrite as well, and you have been in lot of community work as well, so you meet a lot of people. What I want to know is from your own experiences, how these platforms have evolved throughout till now. So, what you saw, like back down few years, and you said, okay, what this is, what they have made, and now you look back and you say, okay, this has been the evolution of these platforms and how they have reached till now. So what are your experiences in this area?
I'll say the biggest jump that I've seen is um, platforms now like Framer, and there are other ones as well like V0 where you can have add a prompt and it can generate something for you. I think in the past there were a lot of drag and drop builders. That's where a lot of us started looking at no code and low code tools for the first time. But even there, you needed to know what you were doing with the platform.
Yeah.
That
Right.
barrier going away is probably the biggest transition and like the most evolutionary step in the no code low code space that I would have seen in recent times.
Okay.
And
What about
one
you,
thing that I
Hemantika?
Yes, yes. And one thing that I noticed is like initially, maybe even 2 to 3 years back, when like there used to be a debate between low code and pro code, and a lot of people used to say that okay, low code is of no use. Like this to mostly be on the negative side of low code, saying that it won't be of any help. But especially with the growth of so many dev tools that are mostly focused on being low or no code, and also with different tools like framer and AI coming into place, plus companies also adopting it. I see there has been a growth in adoption by developers themselves. Like other than that, they we used
That's
to
a
stay in
good thing. Yeah.
yeah, we used to stay in our own bubble that no, we are not going that way. Traditional code is the best way to approach things. But now I think we are more open to using and trying out different tools and making it a part of our lives. But we when I say we, I mean developers in general, we transitioned from being very much against low and no code to actually using it to our day-to-day lives, be it in the form of some tools, or I would say that even assistants to some extent, though they don't really come under that umbrella, but it's still helping us write lesser code. So yeah, I think that has definitely grown in the over the past few years.
I think probably one of the biggest factors that help developers accept it more is that the applications no code low code tools have been churning out have become a lot prettier than in the past. I think that was always one big thing about no code platforms is that even when I was using them, I think one thing a lot of people used to think and say is that, and me included as well, is that no code platforms always prioritized function over form. So while they
Hmm.
got what they were telling you done, they didn't always look very good. They always look like, the kind of box structure you draw up in your notebook and fill with a solid color. For a lot of people, when they started with these platforms, that's what it looked like. And as developing UIs has become a lot easier with no code platforms, is no code platforms let people build better UIs, acceptance has increased a lot because that is one of the biggest factor for any such product, right? You want it to be nice to use, right? It gets the job done is one thing that is important in its own place, but that was basically one of the biggest places where people were having to tailor a lot of work, and so that has improved developer acceptance. And I mean on that front, otherwise I think for a lot of developers this might sound harsh, but they need to kind of shun out this sense of elitism that just because it was handwritten because they can code that they can do better. That is not necessarily true. From a practicality standpoint, from a business standpoint, if you can get reliable results from a platform like this every single time, I would trust that to get the job done as well. So there has to be a certain amount of respect and appreciation there. And if it fixed the problem, then it's worth trying out. It's not something that needs to be discarded even before kind of jumping into the problem.
I kind of agree with you, Aditya, on that. I think any so as Himantika also said initially, there was a negative standpoint. So any
Yeah.
change which or anything that is going to change the way we usually work, there is always a resistance. The same thing I think happened with OpenAI as well. People, had a bit of resistance initially, and now somehow it has become part of their life. It has happened with no code, low code also, and I have seen that the negative
Yeah.
standpoint and then how things turned out and how things are turning now. I think one of the biggest conference that I attended, like for me it was big. I'm not sure the people have attended bigger than that. So one of the conference that I attended was from Data IQ, which is again a no code low code for
Yeah, yeah,
machine learning and data science. So I think there the interest build up a bit more, that okay, guys are doing this, then I think there is an amount of adaptation, because such kind of risks are not done unless there is a financial support, or maybe a, a future vision that things will work out. And it was obviously backed by Google. The company was backed by Google. So I think, yeah, there are, and what Aditya said. So I think people should start having a perspective from both ends. If things are going to work out with these platforms, then I think there is no harm in trying it out. They're not going to take out your money because you're trying it out. If things work out, then I think there is no harm in giving out your task to those platforms and let them do it, and things will surely work out. For sure.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that was really good perspective. So now we are going to move towards Appwrite, and that is something that will be kind of fun. So what I want to ask is, can you explain the core principles of Appwrite and its role in this landscape of no code low code?
Hemantika, do you want to go with that?
Yeah, cool. When you mean core principles, what do you mean by that?
So maybe what I had in my mind is like, on
Yes.
what vision Upright is standing, like what is their vision in this landscape, and what is the role that they have played till now, based on your experience, because you have been with Upright now for a while, and I think you have seen the journey. So what
Yes.
have been the role that they are playing in the low code, and what is the mindset of overall mindset, when I say the core principles in this domain?
Yeah, definitely. So, like, our motto is basically to build like a team of hundreds, which means that using one tool, like a single person can build actually like a team of hundreds. And the core principle that we have at Appright is to reduce the complexity of developers. Appright was coded from scratch or built from scratch by our founder and CEO Eldad, because he is a developer, still is a developer, and he felt the frustration of developers uh, as a developer himself of doing repetitive tasks, and he wanted to reduce the complexity. He wanted to reduce the heavy lifting that developers need to do on their end on a day-to-day basis, which is why he wanted to build platform that is solving so many problems that developers face, and the backend being one of them, because it's that part of the code that requires a lot of logic, and is something that also requires a developer to acquire skills in different tech stacks to build something that is properly functioning. So I would say the core principle that Apprite was built on is to reduce the complexities on developers and to make a developer's life easier. So almost everything that we do today has is being done by keeping in mind, like, we're a developer first company, so everything that we do are done by keeping in mind developers first. And almost all the releases are done in such a way, like, what do developers prefer, what are the features that developers want, that will make their life easier. So that's something that we follow, and we have been doing so for a couple of years now.
A good way to visualize this, for example, I'm going to turn this around, turn the table around, and for the next minute or so, Tejas, you're going to be my interviewee. So, Tejas, have you built any applications in the past? Any projects, hackathons, wherever?
Yes, yes.
You have three, four, five
Yes.
applications or more.
Yeah.
Were these web applications? Were these mobile apps? What sort of applications were these?
So I have made few web applications as well. Some of the applications using .NET per se, because since I work as a C# .NET developer.
I love .NET. Just saying. Amazing.
So they have their own, things that make them really amazing, and I can see that
Oh, I
even
love
still at.
.NET and C Sharp.
Yeah,
Still at my
I
house.
honestly, a lot of things I have seen. So on the other day, I was studying for future interviews and
Mhm.
all, and I saw a lot of things that are like I don't know this. When did they introduce this in .NET? So yeah,
Yep,
I have done a lot of applications on .NET, and since I am an IoT enthusiast, usually I have worked a lot on Python,
I
and
see.
because Python and RPy and Arduino embedded C, that I have worked a lot because I'm very badly passionate about IoT.
Awesome.
I can say.
Now, I have some questions for you on this. Out of how
Shoot.
many of these applications have you ever had to build an authentication system? Login, logout
So I
registration
think that has been done for web usually,
for web,
for
right?
.NET and for IoT. Yeah, yeah,
For web.
yeah.
How many of these applications have needed a database
Web again and IoT
and IoT?
majorly.
How many times have you had to
Yes.
set up your own SQL tables or whatever other database you're working with?
Oh, yeah. So no comments, please. Every time I have to do that.
So the thing is, for most developers working on their applications, their products, they spend a massive amount of time setting up these systems, setting up their databases, setting up storage. Um, Chances are they're going to do this, spend a lot of time on it, and they're going to have to do this every single time they build a new application,
Yes,
right?
yes,
If you build
yes.
5 web applications to be used by people, 5 of them have authentication systems. Do you want to be building the same authentication system every single time?
No,
So the
no,
way
yeah,
Appwrite comes in is you've got Appwrite here. What it tells you is I have all of these services built for you that are ready to consume as long as you use an SDK or you
correct.
use the REST API endpoints or you use our GraphQL endpoints. As long as you're willing to use and consume, here are all of these services. They're pre-built. If you want to see what's running under the hood, it's open source. You can take a look as well, if that's fine by you. And so you don't have to worry about building these. You can just directly consume these services. So you focus on the product. We do the rest of the heavy lifting.
Right, right. That's
That's
really,
what
I think
Appwrite
that's
does.
really great vision what I think you guys are having. And you know, one thing that I like about problem solvers, like the people
Mhm.
who have created such products, is like they themselves have faced this issue, just like what Hemantika said, and then they thought about it. Okay, I'm facing means all other people might also be facing it, and let's
Absolutely.
solve this issue. Let's fix this for once, and that's how good products are made. And one more thing I like about Apprite, since I attended that event when we met, that it is open source and it makes sure that the developers at first point have the access so that they can contribute and also see what it is that is being done so that everyone's life can be easier. So yeah, it's really great, with such mindset that people do work. Okay, so moving on, and also I don't like always, working on the connection strings. Every time I mess up, the connection strings are not connecting. I always have to see what is the mistake. Okay, some dot is missing, some double quote is missing. Every time this mess ups.
You get a password incorrect and the DSN is structured properly.
Yeah. Yeah, and usually when we are, developers have one more habit of copy pasting. So पीछे last वाले में क्या copy किया था वही will we copy that and we'll put
हाँ,
it here, and we forget to
Yeah,
modify sometimes. अरे कुछ तो गलत हो रहा है इसमें, वही copy किया है, we need to modify the
been there,
password
done
and use
that.
it.
exactly.
So it's a pain, but I think such things do help. That is really one thing. Okay, moving on. So next question that I had for you guys is how Apprite, because this is the question that I think relates directly to the reason why we are having this podcast. So how does Apprite makes it easier for people to build application without deep technical knowledge? Because that is where the adaptation rate comes in, that we don't have the knowledge and your application or your product is making it easier for me to use it. So how does it makes it easier?
So when I was asking you these questions on how you can,
Yes.
you know, about
Yeah.
all of these services, whether it's authentication, whether it's databases, whether it's storage, the thing with Appwrite is you do not need to know how to build these. You just need to know how to consume these, right?
Right.
So if, for example, I do not know how to build a full-fledged storage buckets based system with chunked uploads and downloads involved, I don't need to know all of this. I just need to know how to either consume an SDK or hit a REST API. So
Right.
automatically there is a substantial decrease in the knowledge barrier to leverage any kind of solution we have here, whether it is storage, whether it is databases, because with databases as well. So with each Appwrite project or an instance, if you're self-hosting, you get a console view that lets you see what's going on, that lets you make changes on your Appwrite instance directly. So with databases, you could create databases, collections, tables, all of that from the interface itself. You do not need to have to do it programmatically. So it substantially decreases the knowledge barrier that a lot of these services would need. And most standardized no code, low code platforms today will always have a facility to consume REST APIs. That is
Right.
a standard that most platforms recognize because it's necessary today. It's not even a matter of whether it's important or not. It's just fundamental for any
Correct.
internet-based
Correct. Hmm.
applications to be able to consume other services online. So as long as you understand how to consume a REST API, you can use Appwrite wherever you want.
Cool. Right. What about you, Hemantika? Would you like to add anything in that?
I think he added everything that needs to be said. Just like to sum it all up, so if you are somebody who is building a full stack application, and if you know a bit of development, let's say front end development and some basics of APIs and how to use them, I think then you can build a full stack application, especially the backend part with Appwrite. So having one skill will help you build a whole product.
Right. So, moving on, I think the question that is going to come on next, you have already given one example. Still, I would like to ask because I know it's really good to dig in a little bit. Can you give us an overview of some of the projects that were made through Appwrite, including one of the project which you already mentioned, which was related to IoT. Other than that, the few of those which are like near to your heart, or you have been excited about those projects. Okay, they have made on Appwrite and they are really cool, kind of. Yeah, Hemantika, you can go ahead, maybe.
Yeah, like there's a ton of them, and you can actually find it in our website called builtwith.apprite.io. Like there are a ton of amazing projects that are being built with Apprite. And um, I think a favorite one that even Aditya might talk about is K Collect. So it's an app
Oh yeah.
like that. Yeah, that has a series of all the animes and Korean series and all of it that you can go and
It's
watch.
a K-pop photo card management platform primarily. So
Mhm.
in the K-pop space, there is a concept of photo cards, which are the equivalents of trading cards in baseball and so on. And
Mhm.
so photo cards are their own niche of this sort. They're traded. People are fond of them. People buy albums because of them, and they come with every album basically. Each records publisher will set and create a number of photo cards for each album and deliver them as someone buys an album.
Mhm.
And so K-Collect is a platform that leverages I think almost every service and app, right? It is almost right now, but it's going to become every very soon because they are working on a new feature within the platform. But they're supporting 50,000 K-pop fans, more than 50,000 right now. And they had a bespoke solution before. They had their own backend before, and they shifted to Appwrite, which basically helped them decrease their costs by approximately 700%. So K
Nice.
Collect is a major story for us. I think there's a number of other projects that you'll also find on the Built with Appwrite platform. Like there is Glitch, which was
Exactly.
built by a community member during our hackathon, which is a hackathon collaboration platform. So something that helps you with your project management and your team management and so on during a hackathon. And
Mhm.
similarly, there have been a number of other applications. Um, like I remember there was one for video game fans. I think it was called Radeon. There have been a number of chat platforms that have been created, e-commerce like platforms that help you deliver and sell your products. So we've had a lot of such platforms being and projects being created. I worked on one recently that it's a simpler application, sure, but it's an application where you can remove the background from your headshots, um, and if you want. So a background remover
Mhm.
application. I've been working on this has been my side project for a little while now. So we have a number of these that have been coming up, and you can discover these on the Build With platform. It's a great place to take a look.
Okay. Surely I'll have a look, and I'll also leave the link in the description so anyone can check it out. Moving on. So since we are discussing about different projects, I would like to know one of the specific industry where you think that Apprite has added a lot of value from a no code low code context.
We don't like to limit ourselves to any space. I think we help
Exactly.
everyone equally. Like I
We
feel
are
like the kind
the
of
limit.
platform that Appwrite is like,
Yeah.
for example, whether you're looking at e-commerce, whether you're looking at SaaS, whether you're looking at health, you need authentication everywhere, for example, right? You're gonna need a database everywhere,
True,
for example, or
true.
storage.
Yeah.
On that note, by the way, one place that I think where storage, for example, has been especially helpful because I love our storage solution a lot. Social media is taking a lot of help from that. It can benefit a lot. So I know one of our team members is working on a major project of his own that leverages Appwrite in this manner. He's been live streaming his development process on that as well. But we don't like to limit ourselves anywhere. I think we just help everyone as much as we can.
That's a good approach, though.
But
Yeah, I mean,
since I sorry, go ahead,
yeah,
Aditya.
no, I
Yeah,
was
go
gonna
ahead.
say why just build it for SaaS when everyone can use it. So
So I think especially with app, right, only limit is your imagination.
oh yeah,
But like Aditya was mentioning about storage, and even I have seen that a lot of growth in the type of apps that we are seeing on social media, be it students building clones
yeah.
or people building sites where they can collaborate, share designs, something like Figma board or something like that. So most of these apps are what are coming up, or are being built by
Real-time chat
developers.
applications and so on. That's been a major space
Mhm.
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
that as well. And recently I have also seen some people using it at Web3, but when it comes to Web3, my knowledge is
Yeah.
very limited, so I don't really know what exactly or how that works. But I have seen people sharing about using Web3 with Applet, and I'm yet to know more about it. But yes, that's another part of technology where
Mhm.
Web2 and Web3 is coming together.
But I had a thought that maybe, I wanted to ask you that question, that is Apprite, moving to a scope of Web3. Maybe I thought we can ask it at the
We're
last
not a
because,
decentralized platform.
Yeah.
I will
hmm,
say we're not
hmm,
decentralized in the sense that um, we're not using IPFS right now or something like that. Um, But if you have a Web3 application where you think it complements, we're always happy to collaborate and support. It's
of
not
course.
a niche that we've kind of built AppRed out for, in the sense it is very conventionally a server based application. It is going
Correct,
to be
correct.
centralized. It could be distributed. Yes, that for sure can happen, but it's going to be a centralized application still. Um, but that being said, if it complements, why not?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so thanks for adding in that Web3 part. So moving on, I think the biggest initial challenge for anyone to go on any new platform is the learning curve. So that I wanted to ask you, how is the learning curve for an experienced guy who is already had an experience with a no code low code platform, a different one, moving to Appwrite. And then from second perspective, a guy who has not worked in any technical, any technical background is moving to an Appwrite. So in both cases, how do you think is the learning curve?
I would say it's pretty straightforward, especially for people who have some experience in development. Since we have SDKs in almost 13 to or 11 to 13 languages. So if
Mhm.
you know any of this language, it's very easy for you to build with Appwrite. Plus, I talked a bit about customization and extensibility. So with Appwrite, that is pretty easy to do as well. So if you are comfortable in any language of your own, you can easily use that knowledge to build with Appwrite. And also for beginners, so one thing that I really love, it might sound like that we are bragging about it, but the documentation is very nice and it's very simple to follow. So for example, if I am an absolute beginner and I don't even know what authentication is, reading our docs, you will know what it does and how you can. And we also have a lot of quick starts. So at the end of our documentation, what you are doing is you're also building an application using the service that you're learning about. For example, authentication. So let's say I'm learning about it for the first time and I also want to build with it. We have great examples and great quick starts, and you can easily just learn what's going under the hood or how that works, and then see it working in front of your own eyes. And especially as a beginner developer, I guess that's very effective when I actually do something with my own hands and see it working. So for me, at least, I believe that it's quite straightforward. But um, if your viewers are here and is trying out Appwrite, I would also love to hear their feedbacks and what they think about it.
I
Do add
remember
comments for sure
one
for all
one
my
collab.
viewers. Yeah, Aditya, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
One collab I remember that we did in my early days was we had a live stream and collaboration with AppSmith, where we showed how you could use AppSmith and Appwrite together. And so for more experienced candidates, consuming REST APIs tends to be a fundamental, a standard um, part of their knowledge base. For newcomers, that's going to be one challenge, of course. But as long as you can understand how REST APIs work, how JSON works, um, if your platform can accommodate that, whether you're writing code by hand on your own, whether you're using a low code or no code platform, as long as that can be accommodated, you're going to be okay. Um, Appwrite is meant for a plug and play style. It doesn't enforce its own design patterns in most places. It is supposed to be used by you the way you want to use it, rather than you having to use it the way we want you to use it. So
Right.
as long as you can consume REST APIs, you have an understanding of how JSON objects work, um, how you can work with them in your preferred language or so on. The fundamentals are going to be necessary.
Yeah, I think documentation is really important. One thing, very, very important, because even in IoT, whenever I use, different boards, the biggest challenge that I find is documentation at first point. Because if the board is, by mostly by any chance, if it is made in China or something, and if they don't
Yeah.
have any documentation, then that's really a pain to.
Mm.
But I think now the communities has grown so much that documentation is playing very important role, and people themselves are contributing a lot in documentation as well, which was not being seen back, like, I think, I don't know, but I'm saying it right or wrong, but I think 8 years back, 5, 10 years back, this was not seen much. But now I think it is being seen huge, that even a normal guy who is not able to contribute in code level is still, trying to contribute at least in documentation level, where he has faced some issue and he has found out that, okay, this can be changed in documentation. So that is really great. So documentation plays a really important role in any kind of application and learning curve for any kind of individual. So that's really a great info. So moving on, let me check one second. Yeah, so one thing again, since I think we are moving towards the end now, and two three questions which are important for me as well. One thing is like, what are the recent huge updates from Appwrite? One thing, and are there any future plans that you are interested in? Of course, no, no spilling of beans if you are going to give surprises, but other than that, like, you can share the space, like, in this space Apparat is working a bit, and we are really excited with what we can do in that, like that also. It's fine, not an issue.
See, this probably brings a challenge for all the listeners here, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we know what works happening, but the fun thing about Appwrite is it's open source. You can see exactly what work is being done. So why don't you check out our repositories and see what you find? If you like what you find, by the way, please go star our GitHub repository. We would always appreciate that.
Yeah.
But why don't we turn this into a little treasure hunt and you find
Yeah.
what excites you?
Uh, so I am myself following the repository. So I'm although I have not checked it recently. I have been running around a little bit, few things. But obviously, after this, I'll surely check it out.
Now's
And
your time.
myself, I'll
Yeah.
add my comments at least, and also for the viewers who are watching this podcast, make sure you check it out. I'll leave the link in the description, and do share what you find exciting in the repository. And also, if
Yeah.
you are interested in contributing, please go ahead. They are really open for contribution, because I have also checked it out, and it's really great. Lot of issues,
Yeah.
so you can check them and contribute, and that's really healthy to contribute in open source. Yeah, so moving on, I think last few things that I want to ask. One is, how do you see no code, low code in coming 5 years?
I think I'll just say one sentence about it, that it will grow. It is bound to grow, because different reports and even what we see in a day to day life, that I also referenced about it a few questions back, that the demand is very high, and the supply of developers to with that demand is very less. So these tools that is saving our time and helping us become more productive, I think it will just grow over the years, as and more we get involved with technology and the adoption grows. So I would say that it is just going, it's bound to grow, and it will continue to grow.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Dita.
Can't add much more to that.
Okay, and the last question, which is about Apprite and AI. So, is there any kind of work that is being done in terms of LLMs or AI from the Apprite's point of view?
So we
We
already
are
have
consuming.
a
Yeah.
yeah, with the Appwrite AI assistant. So we have it in our console, and what all you need to do is just go to the console, either click on the search bar icon and then click on ask them or the AI assistant, or you can just click on command plus K, and that has been trained on our documentation and our articles. What it really helps is, if you are lazy enough to read the documentation, but you are with some questions, you can just ask the AI, and let's say that, hey, how do I add XYZ to my ABC? So it will give you answers related to that. So that's one thing that we have done with AI for now, but I can tell you that we have some great plans with AI in the future. And when I say future, it must might be very soon as well. So yeah, that's
There are
what
Super
things
we
we're
excited.
exploring
yeah.
as to what we can support. So, like I said, now's your time to spend your day going through our repositories and
Yeah.
seeing if you see something.
Yeah, you might find out something that is not being exposed here. Who knows?
You never know. You'll never
Yeah,
know.
who never knows?
And then, of course, you're free to assume what you want to assume, and
Yeah, true,
maybe
true.
you'll hear
Agree,
about it
agree.
sooner. Maybe you'll hear about it later.
Yeah, or
A
maybe
little
you can say
mystery is
that,
good
okay,
from
I
our end.
found out.
I
This
think
this is
as
something.
open as we are, every once in a while, a little bit of mystery is always fun.
it's
So
it's
yeah,
okay.
don't be Sherlock Holmes and
It's
find what
always
you.
It's always healthy to have a mystery so that people can go and check it out. And anyhow, I have seen your repository.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. I've seen the documentation as well on that day, and it was really awesome. And as Himantika said, lazy people like me who don't like to read documentation, a lot of times we are, stuck with the documentation only. So since there is an AI assistant, I think it's easier for me as well to, read. But again, yeah. Great. So I think we are at the end of the podcast, and this was really an awesome podcast that I have been looking from a very long time. Thank you, both of you, for your time. And actually, this was the first podcast where I had two guests, so it was really a
Ah,
great experience. So thank you for that as well, for agreeing on, sharing the stage, and it was really fun. Lot of learnings. So yeah, if you want to say any parting words, I'll be really happy to give it over to you guys.
it was really fun being here talking about Appwrite, about the no code, low code space. And if you want to connect with us, if you have any further questions for both Hamantika and I, we've got our Twitter handles up here. Um, they're a good way to reach us.
Yeah,
And otherwise, yeah, as far as the Appwrite goes, do join the Appwrite Discord. We share all our latest updates and so on within our Discord community. They're always the first to know. Because they are our community, they're always close to us, right? We like them,
absolutely.
Yes,
so
yes.
it's your stop to be close with us, interact with our team, interact with fellow Apprite builders,
Yep.
with other contributors, and yeah, join the Apprite Discord.
Yeah.
That's
What about you, Himantika?
I think it was a really lovely discussion that we had. It was an exciting topic for me for a very long time now, and it was very nice to hear all of your perspectives on it. So once again, I would say that thank you for inviting me and Aditya both, and for having this podcast. It was really fun having this hour-long discussion on low and no code. So yeah, thanks once again.
Thank you. And for all the viewers, the links are in the description for both of their LinkedIn, Twitter and LinkedIn handles, Discord server, Applight link. All the links are in the description. Go check it out and keep innovating. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.